Tilted up to get your head in it.
Hope this people will check back in.
Hopefully, people are not in the old link. They're having some computer problems, but it happens.
Michigan. Good evening. Thank you very much. Tennessee.
Hey, Dylan. He says, I miss you guys. Chris, can the gun industry survive the attack on the industry? I'm seeing lots of stores going out of business. Well, I felt like we were being attacked tonight when I was trying to set up this live stream.
Well, I just lost my FFL. Brandon with the gun room has been really great to us over the last few years. ATF came after him because he ran out of his house. This guy he's a police officer. He's a homicide detective from Montgomery County Sheriff's. He supplies to most of HPD, the county sheriffs, Houston PD, everybody. And they said because he doesn't have a storefront, he has to close down. Well, there's no way this guy's going to be able to have a storefront. He's got a full-time job, so basically
As a
they just
police
shut him down.
officer, too. So,
They just shut him down.
yeah,
No reason.
that's not good.
ATF's going after anybody but the major gun stores. Of course, the big gun stores can start charging more money now too because there's no competition.
Well, sorry for the late start. Like I said, we had some computer problems, but we're doing the Q&A tonight in my office since there were so many issues with connecting in Chris's office because we do have really, really good internet, but he's having some massive computer problems right now. That his computer is basically a gigantic paperweight at this point. So hopefully everything will stream well and do well tonight. If you guys would like to donate tonight during the chat, our preferred method is donor box. I put that up at the top already. You can use that link throughout the Q&A. We also have the same link as on smallarmsolutions.com if you'd like to use that one. If you would like to donate or if you would like to have a question bumped to the top and get priority and get a guaranteed response, we, of course, take more than just paid questions. We try to get as many questions asked and answered in the hour that we're here. So we will drain his brains. Right?
I'll say you guys who are not part of our Patreon family, we certainly would encourage you because what YouTube doing with us with the demonetization is taking its hit. So any of you guys who would like to become Patreon members would be great for us to help us to keep continuing bringing you content.
Jim said it's definitely different decor.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry I don't have guns mounted on the wall. I have a lot of kit art, whatever. All right, we had some questions that were sent in earlier for the Q&A today. Sean on donor box, thank you, Sean. He didn't have a question, just wanted to donate for tonight. Matt Barnes on donor box, thank you, Matt. Chris, what is your opinion of the Geisley URGI upper receiver group?
It's an evolution. It's a U.S. military option. Not necessarily my favorite configuration. I've actually been trying to get my hands on one for a couple of years now. Unfortunately, Geisley, after at some point, just stopped returning my phone calls. Once Bill got out of it, his new marketing team who took over, I was never able to get anything out of them after he left. So unfortunately, I haven't been able to test one myself, but I am aware of it. Again, it's just their configuration.
Mark on donor box, thank you, Mark. What pistols are best suited for the hottest 10mm load, such as those made by Underwood?
I got to say guns like the Glock and the SIG, and the reason I'm going to say it to you is because you got metal and polymer. The polymer actually absorbs shock, where steel takes every time that the steel smacks the steel will wear. So for the most part, believe it or not, for as far as the wear and tear in the gun, the Glock and the SIG are probably two of your better options. The Glock's probably been one of the most proven of all the 10mm that's out there. The 1911s, they work fine, but they break too.
Adnan on Donorbox. Thank you, Adnan. He said, "Good evening. In regards to the barrels made, Centurion Arms, could the consumers have the gas port dimensions custom for a specific build, or are the gas port sizes tailored towards mil spec or match grade ammunition?"
No, the basically what mine is giving you, if he gives you his Mark 12 or his Recce, those are geared with that gas system, with that gas system, and the length from the gas port to the muzzle. It's all done, for proper dwell time with 5.56 Mark 2.62 ammunition. Now the rest of his barrels, your gas port's dictated again by the overall barrel length, by the length of the gas tube, and by the length of the gas port to the end of the barrel. So that's how it's done. It's generally done with 5.56 ammunition. Any military grade guns going to be 5.56 ammunition. A lot of the more current ones, unfortunately, due to the garbage wolf ammunition, the stuff that's low pressure out there, they're actually increasing gas ports, so it'll work with that lower powered ammunition, which means when you're using it with standard 5.56, it's going to be overgassed. It's going to make the gun wear a little bit longer, or wear a little bit sooner. So as far as custom gas ports coming out of the manufacturer, no, they're going to gear them so they're going to work with pretty much any ammunition in any weather. Most of them boutique stuff that you're talking about, you're looking at somebody who's going to be starting off with a barrel blanket, and they're going to drill their own ports, starting with the smallest, and then they'll work their way up from that.
People are on the other stream. If you can tell them to come on over to this one, that would be great. Steve on Donorbox said he's just put in a donation. Thank you so much, Steve. You guys you're certainly welcome to use the super chat function. DonorBox is our preferred method just because Google takes 30% of your donation and DonorBox only takes about 5%. But regardless, we are happy to have you here tonight with us, and let's get through as many questions as possible. Bought some books during your son's graduation, and I haven't received them yet. Any updates? And I hope you both are doing well. Well, things have not been going well. Chris had a car accident, and he was in the hospital for a couple weeks. He just got out, and that's why he's sitting here, and we're doing this right now. I posted it on social medias, Patreon, YouTube feed, Facebook, and I think also Instagram. So if ever you guys need an update, I try to keep you guys updated as much as possible through those channels, and ask you to bear with me. Our son graduated, and then he got into a car accident. And also, you know, I am a one-woman show, so I am responsible for getting him to sign these books and package them and get them out and to you guys as quickly and efficiently as possible. Fortunately, I do not have Jeff Bezos funds like my son likes to call with the Amazon Prime. Your books are not Amazon Prime delivered; they're media mail, and it's just me doing it. So please be patient. And when you make a book order, I get people angry and they just ordered a book 3 days ago and they're like, why hasn't it been shipped? um, just know if you order a book, it's going to take about 4 weeks to get out because it's just me doing the videos and the books, and it's a lot, and especially when we're having a crisis like this. So all right, let me scroll up here and see what we got. We got Dylan's. What's the hole on the lower receiver where the front retaining pin is? The weep hole.
There's a weep hole on the magazine, basically the magazine well on the right hand side. You have a weep hole that's on the side, which allows you to put oil, get some oil into the front pivot pin spring. I think that might be the hole that you're referring to, but that's a lubrication spring, a lubrication port for that spring.
Going to purchase a Sons of Liberty Gunworks Chime BCG. Do you have any thoughts on their quality?
Well, you probably saw the video. I did a video on Sons of Liberty Gunworks, and the guns were beautiful. That gun was beautiful. It was. I really couldn't ding too much on it. Quality was there, really, really nice. So anything you're going to get of those guys is going to be pretty damn good.
He said signing books must be a good workout. You know what? I think actually schlepping the books is a good workout because it's me carrying the case. And each case is 44 pounds. So I have to bring them in and then I take them all out, stack them up. He signs them. Then I take them off the table, put them back in the box. And then I do a few cases like that. And then I start taking them out and labeling them and all of that. So whenever you do order a book, I go through stance.com. So you will get an email tracking number through there. Um, and it then usually takes a few days from that point to then go out the door because I'm usually doing mass amounts at once. Kyle on Donor Box. Thank you, Kyle. Hi, Chris. Do you think Ruger's latest 308 rifle, SFAR, as a concept? I know it is not the first small frame 308 setup, but do you think it is safe long term setup considering the weight savings? Also, what is the weight of your updated combat rifle, the SOCOM barrel?
Geez, yeah, I've never weighed it because again, when I build these, I build them to work and to last. You do sacrifice some weight because there are some heavier components on there, but this is it's designed as a combat rifle, so I can't say as I've lost that. I've weighed that.
Miss Other will be strong when this is done. She will be wrestling bears in the woods.
And as far as the Ruger's concerned, um, I again, this is another one I love to get my hands on. There have been some other attempts before. DPMS was the first with their Gen 2, and then of course you go to POS Revolution. The POF Revolution again is it's a very thin web on that bolt to to support that cartridge case. It's always been a concern for me. I tend to prefer the heavier AR-10 type bolts. These are not combat guns. The POF Revolution, the DPMS, nor this one. These are basically commercial guns. They're not used in the real world. POF, they done some good testing on theirs, but really these are not guns that you're going to be carrying into combat. So I guess for commercial guns, I think they're definitely good enough.
I know you have some experience with the rifle speed adjustable gas box. Do you truly believe that they appear to be as far as reliability and durability?
Yes, I do. Reliability and durability. All you're basically doing is you're closing off your port. So as far as durability is concerned, it's no big deal. Um, but as far as it being convenient to be able to operate, it's an excellent option. Um, I've been very pleased with it. I had that one rifle, the Diamondback, the DB10, that it cured all of its issues with cycling and with a can. I'm fond of them, so I've yet to have any problems with them. They're adjustable by the pins, where you can set it so you're never going to go too low on your setting for as far as shutting the gas off. There's a lot of other options with it as well. Yeah, I'm a fan of it.
This is why I don't like to be on camera because then you guys can see my facial expressions. Carrie is in the chat. He wants to know what vintage of wine I'm drinking, or have I graduated to Tito's and vodka? Carrie is definitely a Tito's and vodka situation. When the way things have been, absolutely. Wine is just not cutting it anymore. And then he said, by the way, aim high. Can you explain the whole thing with Glock barrels? Can you fire coated hard cast bullets in the now, and why are they not fully supported?
Well, first off, the reason you don't fire lead out of those is because of the fact you have no lancing groove. Basically, you're squeezing the bullet down the barrel. If you're squeezing that bullet down the barrel, you will get a lot of significant amount of leading in that barrel. And then basically, as you keep firing, the lead builds up and you create an overpressure and it will go. Now, for as far as the fire casted, I've actually have used some of the fire casted bullets, but not in Glock pistols. I've used them with a friend of mine who fires cowboy guns, the 45 long Colts, the 38 37s. They seem to work fine in those. But again, those are standard landing groups. Now, for as far as not fully supporting, it's a Glock design. For the most part, the only problems you have with them is if you reload. Because basically, what's going to happen when you reload is you're going to resize and it's going to squeeze it down. You're going to be able to see a little ridge where that base is not fully supported. It's more predominant on the 40 S&W than there's any of the other ones. But that's a question for Mr. Glock and his perfection.
A video on Makarovs and PSA AKs, and what are your thoughts on PSA AK?
Well, you have videos on two of the PSA AKs when they originally came out. One was the AK-74 and one was the AK-47. So there are two videos out there already. Makarovs, I've actually talked to Michiko at one point about getting some Makarovs in here. That's one ammunition that I don't think I have here is Makarov. Um, it's a historical gun, for sure. Not one of my favorites. it's a little underpowered. I prefer the full 9x19, and also just for as far as safety is concerned, I guess I prefer other guns over it. But who knows? Maybe at some point.
Um, Victor on DonorBox. Thank you so much, Victor. He said it's the first time using DonorBox. No question. Hopefully, it was easy for you. Just letting you know, you're the reason I got into LMT because I too like quote expensive things.
Well, listen, people always say you're in LMT's pocket. I'm LMT sponsoring you. LMT doesn't give me anything. I have not been able to even get parts from them in 3 years to be able to review. So as a company, they don't really do anything, they don't do anything for me at all. But I believe in the quality. I believe in the guns. So I'm still going to say it. What I think is the best, regardless of what, how well their marketing department, views me and my channel and me being able to do my work with them. Um, they are still probably one of the best games out there.
But what always kills me about the whole situation too is like, no, we've never received any money from LMT. But Carl Lewis calls him all the time and asks him questions on different stuff. So
I didn't
like,
talk to Carl about a year.
really,
Saying that's his interview. I think I talked to him right after that when it came out.
lots happened today. Greg, do you think the NFA FOPA stunted automatic weapons innovation? I'm not sure what his question is.
Yeah, I'm not
It's
sure.
this one right here. Do you think the NFA, FFO stunted automatic weapons innovation? Do you think we would have better weapons with a commercial market?
You know what? I'm actually not familiar about that.
Um,
I have to basically look into that.
Greg, if you want to like clarify your question too, because the first part of it, I'm not sure what you're asking. So if you want to just type it in at the bottom, you don't need to donate again. I'll just look for it. Can you ask Centurion to make HK sites again?
Well, I've talked to Monty about that in the past. In order for him to be able to do that, he has to get original HK sites. So basically, he has to get MP5 sites, and then he builds, the mount and puts them on there. If he can't get those original parts, he's not going to be able to build those. Those aren't built from scratch. Those are basically built off of real HK MP5 or whatever types of sites. So that's probably why you don't see those.
If you can make one change to the M4 from its inception, what would it be? For me, it would be barrel contour.
Well, no, at the time the barrel contour was necessary to cut the M4. Now, that's a tough question because as the gun was, as it came out, as it was assigned, was for a lightweight weapon, not a combat rifle. That's why the barrel was a thinner profile and it was light. It wasn't until they started using those things as actual assault rifles and ambushes that those things would overheat because they were too thin. That's when the M4A1 came out with the SOCOM barrel, and those problems all went away. So I definitely would say a major improvement was putting the SOCOM barrel on there. I would remove the slats myself because I don't even use the M203 anymore, but I would remove that. And your other thing probably would be go with a mid-length gas system on it. I am a fan of the mid-length gas system, but that would cause a bayonet problem. So that probably would be one of the things I'd like to see done. And of course, a better trigger.
Okay, back to Greg. NFA GCA, which is the Firearms Owners Protection Act. So he's asking, do you think that the Firearms Owners Protection Act stunted automatic weapon innovation?
Dude, I'm not this familiar with that one. I have to look that one up. I apologize.
That might be more of a like MAC, like military arms channel question.
Yeah.
He's very into that stuff and like
Yeah, he's very much into the lobbying this end of it. I don't really do too much with
I mean,
that.
the thing is, it's like any kind of roadblock that's put in, it's going to stunt the industry regardless. I mean, it's going to stunt what you even receive on YouTube
Look at the
because
pistol race.
they make it so difficult for you to even have this channel. So, or I'm sure it's going to affect innovation. But no, definitely Tim would probably be better to answer that question. Sean on DonorBox, thank you, Sean. On the Centurion video from yesterday, I'm curious when Monty started selling mid-length SOCOM HF barrels. I have Centurion mid-length SOCOM, but it's not HF, it's CRMOV. I have Centurion car-length SOCOM HF. There's no SOCOM mid-length HF barrel on his website. If yours is a prototype or specially made, because I want one and I want that damn chrome-plated carrier. I currently own Centurion Midway HF, LW HF, SOCOM Mid, CRMOV, and FBI HRT HF. For the military, I think Centurion 13.7 inch mid-weight HF mid-length would be my choice. Hope all is well with your asset.
Now, for as far as the barrels are concerned, mine was the first run. Those are our production barrels. Mine was the first run. Money has difficulty getting barrels. A lot of it is because of materials, a lot is because of his size. These barrel manufacturers who do especially the grade barrels that he does, he's not the priority. It's the bigger companies that are. The Colts, the Sigs, the FNs. Those guys are the priorities. So these smaller, more boutique type shops like Monty, he has a harder time getting machine time. No, my barrel is a production barrel. But mine came out of the first run. And again, as you guys see, his barrels, they come in sporadically and they're gone. A lot of guys give a hard time. Hey, every time I go on there, it's gone.
Yeah.
Well, there's a reason for that. It's because as soon as he gets his stuff, it does. It just it's gone.
Yeah, and I popped the codes in again. Those codes are still active. We're blessed to be able to offer those codes to you guys. It's 3% off rifles, 5% off uppers and lowers, and then 10% off everything else on the website. So if they do happen to have something that you need, you can save yourself a little bit of money. And that is the one complaint about Centurion is they don't have the stock. But I never hear complaints about the quality.
His
So.
stuff is his. And there's very his bill or his barrels are all his specifications to his drawings. These are not just somebody who's pulling a barrel off another manufacturer and throwing their name on it. These components are made to his specifications and to his quality. So you get what you pay for, and it is worth the wait.
Somebody's asking if that BCG is going to be coming to the civilian market.
Well, I got a text from him.
That one you showed.
He was basically saying that that's very much in the prototype
He was like,
stage.
"Thanks."
Yep, and then when he will offer will be very, very refined over that one. So I probably shouldn't have shown it, but I got relatively excited when I saw it because again, I've been trying to get people to do that for years. When I was at Colt, I was preaching it all the time. They said, "Well, we'll lose money on selling the replacement one, replacement for the rotating pens." So the idea is to make more money on the parts that are lost, I guess, on with them. But the rest of these manufacturers, if you're going to make an enhanced bolt carrier group, what is the one thing that you need? What is the most commonly lost part in the field, especially in the desert? Is when you're maintaining your rifle, you lose the firing pin rotating pin. This totally prevents that from happening. That little pin makes that gun useless. Having that captive one, again, to me, it's really a no-brainer. There's only a couple companies. Carlos started doing it because Estonian demanded it. They wanted it on their gun. So his external piston, those of you guys who get his Estonian reference rifles, you'll see he's got that. You'll see Reed Knight's done that. You'll see HK's done that. There's only a few companies that have actually done it, but it's not rocket science.
Miles says, "I miss hanging out with you too." Heather, you're showing your face on camera. I thought you'd learn your lesson when someone did the face swap a couple years back. That was like a good 5 years back. And
I still have that on my phone,
oh
actually.
God, why?
I love what they did with Levi, the dog. They put the helmet on Levi. And
Was
he had a
Levi
cigar.
in it?
Oh, yeah. They put the helmet on and he had a cigar in his mouth.
All I know is I was bald, and yeah, it was not a cute look. Eric said, "Just wanted to make a donation out of my appreciation for this show, and thanks for the
Thank you
firearms
so much.
info." Thank you. Let me scroll back up here and see if I can.
Well, while she's doing that, we're editing something that I'm thinking you guys are going to think is pretty goddamn cool. It's a new crime series, which we haven't done one since the JFK assassination.
Because he doesn't listen to me,
And,
and
well, there's two of them we're doing now. But this one here
it only
is
took 8 years.
on counterfeit guns that were caught by the Colombian army going to the FARC guerrillas. And basically, these were all basically Colt rifles and Colt clones that were supposed to be going to these guerrillas. And they wanted identification where these were actual Colt rifles. They were parts rifles, so that's why I was called over and over to get Colt over there to look at those. So I show you what some of these rifles look like. It's pretty damn interesting to see people out in the jungle. They clone these guns. They put the Colt logos on them just to try to get some extra money out of them. Granted, when you look at them, I wouldn't shoot most of them, but it's a pretty interesting one. The other one we're doing is another crime series is on the prime gun, which is the Glock. Granted, many people like to say Glock is the gun of freedom or a gun of law enforcement or gun of order. Well, it's like by commercial, it's like by military, law enforcement, terrorists. It's used by everybody. Everybody likes it, and criminals. It's a common gun we see in criminal use. So we're showing the Glock weapons, but we're also going really to the details of the forensics aspect of it too, of what makes those interesting in forensics.
Yeah, all jokes aside, it has been a very long time since he's honored me with a crime series. But I will say this, the two that are coming up are going to be really cool. I really like this concept with the counterfeit Colts, and I actually worked on it all day today, and he just kicked his edits to it. So um, I think I'm going to have that one go up on Sunday.
You got to
I'm
work cut out for her on that one.
Yeah, always.
It's all dependent on
Yeah.
pictures. Obviously, I don't have guns in front of me, so it's dependent all on photographs and putting the photographs in at the right time.
Yes.
So she's
And
got
he
her work cut
loves
out
when I
for her.
finish all of it and goes, you know what? Let's add just one more.
I did. I found
I'm like,
actually. I
oh,
just found one that was pretty cool because it showed a FARC soldier with one of those guns, basically the same ones that that were in the raw, that were made with parts kits. I actually found a picture of somebody had one in it, so you can see what they actually are used in the field.
well, I can tell you today when I was working on editing it, hearing that music, start, because that music is indicative of the crime series. It gets me excited, and I love it. Um, Mike wants to know how the response has been to the Kindle version of America's Rifle. I have not checked on that in a while, and thank you for reminding me. I probably should go check on it. I think it's been a couple months since I checked on it. It's been a little slow with it, but it's great to have for you guys who don't want that. Well, I mean, even if you want the actual tangible book to have on your bookcase, that's always cool, and it's a collector's and its library great and everything. But you know,
Comfortable on
the,
like a pad, iPad or something.
yeah, I know this day and age, people like to read, on their laptops or their iPads and stuff. That's the way I like to read personally, but it's there in case anybody want. And it's a lower price point too because you're not getting into an actual tangible book, but yeah, I'm excited I was able to, add that in there. One of the many things. But I haven't checked it in a couple months. I need to. For civilian AR-15, would it be okay to use a lightweight buffer because you're not running full auto? Did I do that one?
You can. You're still gonna operate faster. It's with having the less mass. So I mean, yeah, will it work? Absolutely, but you're speeding things up where you don't really need to. At least in my opinion, you are decreasing the mass that's coming back by decreasing the weight, so you're therefore decreasing some of the recoil. But again, you're speeding up your cyclic rate by not having that force on there. And so far as I'm concerned, I would want the gun to have as much weight as possible. It's going to work. It's going to work properly. Um, you go off of the barrel contour, what barrel you need: lightweight barrel, midweight barrel, or heavy barrel. Those It's the weight of the barrel that determines what buffer that you use from a mechanical standpoint.
ATF pistol brace rule. Who is really protected? Who is it really protecting?
Last I heard, it was only the person who was in the lawsuit. It was not applied across the board yet. So, and of course, ATF is challenging that. The White House is challenging it. The White House is dead. Biden is dead set on getting these things banned. So he's making it a personal endeavor on his part. But last I knew, it only applied, to the person who was in the lawsuit, not to anybody else.
John on DonorBox. Thank you, John. He said, put that OSS can on your Centurion rifle.
Yeah, I tend to really like the silencer cones and the LMT ion. Um, the reason I haven't put that on too many is I only have one muzzle device, and I tell you what, it's a pain in the ass with one muzzle device going from gun to gun to gun. Silencer Co. I won't call them a sponsor, but they provided me with a lot of cans over the years. And if I need muzzle devices, I call them up and they just ship them out. So I'm not taking muzzle devices on and off, on and off, on and off. I can put one on there. It's a little more difficult to do that with the OSS or the Huxley suppressor.
Any thoughts on Colt's AR 7.62 by 39?
Yeah, absolutely. Go back in history to uh, the Sporter series when they first came out with the 7.62 by 39. That gun came out. And it came out for hunting purposes because of the ammo, but it was stopped because they couldn't get it to work because the magazines were shed. The magazines that were available at the time, they worked fine with like the 4 or 5 round magazines, but you started getting one of the higher capacity magazines. None of them worked. Well, over the past intervening years, Chris Royce and Sig went down to work with the guys down at Cypress Defense, and actually got a fully reliable, durable, military grade 7.62 by 39 magazine. So now you fix the major problem that goes along with that rifle was having a proper magazine. So now you're seeing a lot of companies who are more apt to put them out because the guns are going to be more reliable. Because it wasn't the fact that the gun wasn't reliable on the manufacturer's part, it was due to the magazines. The magazines that you put in them outside of what they provide you with, that's totally not within their realm. So they can't guarantee the reliability. Now you're seeing these guns that are coming with these magazines. For instance, the SIG MCX or SIG MCX the Spear Light that comes in 7.62 by 39 with that magazine because that's what it was designed for. That's what Chris Soares went down and worked with those guys from SIG from Cypress Defense while he was working at SIG. So the magazine was the cure.
What's the reason to run a heavier buffer in piston ARs?
Because you have a much more violent opening stroke than you do with the internal piston. You basically have that operating rod is smacking the top of that carrier and it's driving it rearward. So you're getting more mass to try to keep that closed a little bit longer for the unlocking process.
Arrow M5 or Ruger SFAR?
Well, the Ruger's been around a little bit longer. The SFAR is still relatively new. Um, I like the features of the Ruger. I like the features of the other one as well. I guess it depends on what you're interested in. Because sometimes when you get things that are so close in quality that you really it just comes down to personal preference. Again, these are commercial grade weapons, not military grade.
For a person like myself who is not going to be shooting a ton of rounds out of my AR-15, do you think the extra money spent on a cold hammer forged barrel would be worth it?
No, not really. I mean, um, the cold hammer forged barrels where they truly shine is in longevity and full auto fire. I think you probably would do just fine with a standard mil spec type barrel. You'll never wear it out in your lifetime.
Justin on Donorbox, thank you, Justin, was wondering which is more accurate in hearing safe. IDF Ruger 1022 SR, a Ruger Mark IV, and an MP5 as hosts. Love the suppressed MP5 with that old school handguard look. Ported over barrel suppressors, integrally suppressed, 2-inch barrel, super long suppressor, or regular threaded barrel, regular suppressor setup. Was looking at Liberty's IDF 1022, one of those integrally suppressed Ruger Mark X and or MP5, MP5K. Wasn't sure if I wanted to go traditional thread on suppressor or change it up for one or all of these. Also, thinnest handguard for AR-15 KAC SR-15 for the wife.
Wow.
That was a load.
We're gonna take that one in pieces. I guess.
Yeah. Guys, when you submit questions, try to maybe just stick it to one or two, at the most, because this is a lot.
Well, first off, with the suppressors, with the barrel length. Now, the longer the barrel, obviously, the more propellant you're going to burn. You go with like a 2-inch barrel, your velocity is going to be low. It's not going to have the terminal performance, and you're going to have an incredible amount of unburned propellant that's going to come out, which is going to increase flash, which is going to it's a whole different thing. Longer the barrel, more accurate, more terminal performance. But if you as long as you stay with like a 10.5 or below, you're well going to be within subsonic. Subsonic is the key to making a suppressor work. So myself, you know, I go with the 8-inch barrel, the 10-inch barrel, because again, ideally you want to be over you want to be over 6 inches because it's about where the bottom propellant's gonna really start burning up, so it's not going to be as much of an issue, and you're going to get the full performance of the bullet.
Did you get all parts of that?
Hmm?
Did you get all parts of that?
No, that's just the first one.
Oh, okay.
We're looking at 9mm versus 22 also. 22 again with the shorter barrels, you still most of your ammunition is still going to be supersonic, so you're still going to get a little bit of a crack out of it. Liberty's IDF 1022. That's somewhere in the I have to look at that one because that wasn't the one that I had from those guys. The Ruger Mark X or MP5X, MP5KX. Again, 9mm short barrel with a can. Traditional thread on the suppressor, most like the three lug. because it works much better, especially on some of these shorter guns. Um, I had it was a CZ Scorpion where I had a standard direct thread which came loose and it caused the baffle strike. So the three, the three lug tends to work a lot better. As far as thinnest handguard is concerned, again, it's not been really a big deal for me. I tend to go with the Centurion rails myself, the CM, the C4, and the CMR, and those tend to be good enough. It's as long as you stick with most M-lock handguards are going to be relatively narrow. So I guess you go out there with a pair of verniers and see for yourself. But again, how thin do you want it? Do you want to hold a broomstick, or do you want to hold something you're going to have some kind of it's going to be substantial in your hand?
Broomstick?
Yeah.
Is that what you're thinking about when he said his wife, that he wanted it for his wife? Like,
No.
that's so rude.
No.
I know where your head's at.
Actually, no offense to your wife. Broomsticks.
No offense to me. That's
because it was narrow. It's really, really narrow.
Thanks for your tip on LMT enhanced BCG. I couldn't find just the bolt, but I did find one complete group for my 11.5 builds.
Well, he has a hard time getting materials for that. That's the biggest thing with that bolt. The carriers, he generally only sells them together. So I guess that's probably why he doesn't. I've actually talked to him about that. I talked to him, I think, about it in the interview about that. And he says that it's not as much of a problem making the carrier, but the bolt is a special material. Tools wear quicker when you cut it, so it's a little bit harder to do. And he's got orders going back forever with it too. But yeah, he only makes them so often, and of course that drives those prices up. I can't believe I've seen them for well over $600. It's unbelievable what those things cost.
He said, "No offense taken. I deserve it for the long, convoluted question." No, he was coming from me.
Totally innocent comment, I promise.
It was a Freud, maybe say it, Freud slip, Freudian slip. I can never say it. Thoughts on shortening the M16 barrel to 18-inch and putting a carbine stock on it?
Um, Not really. The whole point of the rifles you see today is so when people are mounted in vehicles, they're easy to maneuver. You go to a longer barrel, you cause the problem. The 14.5 inch has generally been considered the maximum length that you want in a mounted environment, be able to move in and out of vehicles. That's also why I like the Seal went with the Mark 18. They want something that was for close quarter, going in small rooms. So the whole point of those short barrels was for that. It was for maneuverability and in mounted situations. Now, you go with an 18-inch barrel, you're going back to basically, like a C7A2 or an M16A4. You're going back to a full length system, and I don't think you're ever going to see that happen.
Sean said, "Remember, they banned Harry Potter's vibrating broomstick years ago." I didn't even know they made that.
I mean, either.
That is sick. That is sick.
Well, it's a shame because I like Harry Potter. It's like it's rather personal attack.
Appreciated your custom M4 combat rifle video. Thanks for sharing your experience and expertise in such an accessible way.
I know a lot of people disagree with me because everybody's whole premises is lighter, 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 lighter. Well, I've seen lighter guns in the real world overheat, and when they overheat, they cause failures to extract. That's not what these guns are designed for as a combat rifle. What I designed there is a rifle that you'd be able to take into combat. You can flip it on full auto, and the thing's still going to work. Up to the point where the damn barrel blows, which is going to be more ammunition than you can carry. Those lighter weight barrels, again, they do accuracy's better with those with a slightly heavier barrel, and just some of the accessories that I like. I happen to like the folding front side base that I think works better than some of the folding ones. It stays on the barrel, so it's a little bit more accurate. It moves with the barrel. Every piece on there I chose for a reason.
Will we see a reprint of A Collection of Writings Volumes 1 and 2? Those are available always on Amazon. There you can you order them directly from Amazon, and there's Prime shipping on them.
Goes well quickly.
Wow, that was You're just coming for
No,
me
you said
tonight.
Amazon Prime. You just were talking about Amazon Prime not too long ago about how you're on Amazon Prime. I said, "Well, that's Amazon Prime."
That's a sensitive topic.
No, if I never, I had there was no maliciousness about that question at all.
Let me see. I'm trying to find where I left off. Sorry, there's a lot of questions tonight. What's your opinion of H&H Retro series of M16A1 20-inch barrel rifles? I have one in black instead of gray. Also,
I like the
who
gray.
used them black back in the day? PSA is out of stock in the gray.
Well, first off, I contacted the guy over at, that I deal with over at PSA to try to get my hands on one of those, and he said you're looking probably 6 months to a year out. Those are none to be had. Those are going as fast as they can. Now, for as far as H and R, along with GM Hydromatic, were chosen as second and third source contractor in the Vietnam War because Colt had a sole source. The government does not like sole source on anything because if something was happening to manufacturer, especially Colt, who is known for going on strikes in the middle of wars and in the middle of transitions, it was not a good idea. So they decided to to award contracts to those two. Well, GM Hydromatic was a complete nightmare. I don't think there's only like one or two shipments of those. H&R had a couple more, but in the end, the government decided it was better to invest in Colt and to increase their production capability than it was to spend the time with trying to get a second and third source to make them work. Manufacturers, for instance, like Colt, who that's their gun, they don't like handing a TDP over to another company. They don't like having to go assist those companies and having to get those things to work, and production secrets. They don't like doing that. They have their super secret formula. It works. So the government, again, they decided it was a better idea just to complete Colt Gold with pretty much a sole source most of the time, up until the FN contract when Colt got the lost the A2 contract to FN, then pretty much FN took over. M4 was a different situation because there was an issue with the U.S. government releasing technical data against the contract, and Colt opted instead of to sue them to go for a sole source. It was a gamble, and it paid for Colt big time.
What's the issue or difference with Colt 16.1 versus 14.5?
Again, one's NFA and one's not. Um, you know, if you don't want to do an SBR, you got to go with the 16-inch barrel. That's the only reason for the 16-inch barrel. Um, Colt makes a hell of a lot more 14 and a half inches. They only make the 60 inches generally for the commercial market. And they did make them for LE for law enforcement. The original LE 6920 came out because there were police departments who did not want to deal with NFA weapons. So they did 16-inch barrels, so they didn't have to go through all the paperwork with ATF. That was the real reason behind the LE 6920. And of course, once the weapon sunset of the assault weapon banned, that's when the 6920 just freaking took off into to a whole thing of its own and its popularity.
I've been thinking recently about the carbine buffer system and the efficiency of that buffer with shorter gas systems. Why isn't H3 the standard as it runs much closer to original rifle buffer weight?
Because of the dynamics are totally different in a carbine. You have with the carbine length gas system in the way the barrel is, you have increased port pressures, increased chamber pressures. The action is cycling more quickly, so you have to have it balanced so it will work in all weather environments. Um, Heavier basically gives more resistance when the bolt's opening up. Colder weather, you get lower port pressures that can cause the gun to hang up when it's not needed. It can also cause short stroking. It's not a good idea. You If you look at the way a military weapon is designed, an M4 has an H buffer. That way, it works in all environments and works on full auto and burst. Then you go with the SOCOM, the M4A1 with a heavy barrel. In order for it to work properly on full auto, not get light strikes, you have to have an H2 in there to prevent the bolt carrier bounce. It has to do with the bolt carrier hitting that heavier mass of that carrier. The only time an H3 has ever been used by Colt was in their IAR. The IAR barrel was vastly heavier than the barrel on the M4A1 SOCOM, and that was necessary to prevent the bolt carrier bounce issues. So there's a mechanical time when these things are needed, and it has to do with the cycle rate of the gun, and that's dictated by the barrel length, the gas port length, distance from the chamber to the port and port to muzzle. That's all the super secret formula that goes into it. Why you don't just mix and match parts.
Sean on Box, thank you, Sean. Have you been using G96 liquid gun grease? I fucking love this shit. I'm just reading
Yeah,
it as it's written.
I have to say
Hang on.
no.
I fucking love this shit and I've been using it for 3 years now. I'm about to retire my G96 synthetic CLP because the liquid gun grease, in my opinion, is better. The gun grease does not migrate at all. It's not super thick and not super thin. That shit is gold. Was seeing if you've been using it or not. Also, I'm shooting PRS unknown distance gas gun match tomorrow. We'll be shooting out to 600 yards. I'll be using my Centurion 14.5 midway HF upper with Black Hills 69 grain at TNK.
Good stuff. Absolutely not. I don't use grease. The only time I use grease is on guns like M14s and M1 Duran's, where it specifies for it the parts work. Um, an M16 or an M4 system, I see no reason to use grease at all. The CLP works perfectly well, but if it works for you, by all means.
Is this a family rated channel? If it was, I think it'd be TVMA. I mean, I blame Sean
Yes.
over his submitted question and then him talking about the Harry Potter broomstick. I'm just here to read the questions, people. um, Chris has been using G96 for
Ever.
since birth. I think his mother used it
Since
on him
Jesus
when
wore short pants.
I think his mother used it on him when she changed his diapers. But yeah, that is one of our few places that we are affiliated with, and we have a discount code. So SAS10 gets you 10% off everything on their website. And, we've turned a lot of people onto G96.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't never even know about them. They never even knew they were the ones who made the majority for the U.S. military for many years now.
What do you think about the Daniel Defense M4A1 stripped uppers that Brownells has in stock once in a while?
I don't. I'm not really a Daniel Defense fan because I view them as a boutique, and anything they put their name on is extremely expensive. You're paying for that. I think there's other companies out there that put out just as good a quality at a vastly decreased price. Daniel Defense is one of the boutique companies. They are one of the ones that it's bougie. It's supposed to be one of the highest ones out there. I'm not one who built who is. I'm not brand loyal. I'm not what you would refer to as a fanboy for anybody. I'm a fanboy of what works,
Yeah.
and that's how I make my choices of what I would use. Um, you don't see me running around with it. You wouldn't see me running around with an HK or with a Scar or anything like that. You're gonna see me running around with either Colt or LMT or a Centurion Arms M4 type rifle that I would trust with their components, the way that they're built. That's me. A lot of these ones, like Knights, there's not too much that Knights will do that LMT won't. My Armalite Super Sass, there's nothing that the M110 will do that can, and it's half the price. It's half the price of that. It's not a quarter of the price. So again, separating names from what quality and what works, I guess depends on how much you got in your wallet.
Shane says, an intelligent gunman plus an articulate, good looking woman. So I clicked to watch. Happy Friday. um, did any U.S. branch use an M16 with a 1913 top upper that was full auto? Was there ever an M16 M4 with a four-way selector switch, safe, semi, burst, and auto?
There was, but it was not ever used by the U.S. military. That was called the Colt Enhanced Rifle. That was used by the Greeks. Actually, I was over in Greece where I worked for Colt doing the training on some of those, and with the 203s. That was strictly a Contra commercial off-the-shelf rifle. For as far as flat top full autos, yes, that's what the M4A1 was. The M4A1 was a full auto flat top rifle.
That's a link, the website for G96. Somebody said it wasn't working. Do you generally want to see your ejection pattern on an AR at your 3 o'clock?
3, 4, 5 is where you really want to see it in an ideal condition. Because if you were to say you were to have a 4 o'clock, in an unsuppressed condition, you put a suppressor on there, you're not going to be beating the gun a whole hell of a lot. You start getting up at 1 o'clock with, you're going to start beating the gun up. Not to mention the fact that you're more of a risk for short stroking. You're looking at problems with the bolt over base with magazine not being able to get up fast, and shot column not being able to push the magazine column up fast enough for it to pick up the round. Not to mention once you start using a suppressor with an overgas gun, whole bunch of problems. Um, Ideally, that's where you want to be, and the difficulty is it depends on the manufacturer and what the gun what it's designed for. If you have one of these manufacturers like PSA or who's primarily a commercial, they're overgassing these guns to work with a Wolf. Look at a Colt. Colt, no Colt. You'll see generally will see a really good 4 or 5 o'clock is because it's gassed properly with 5.56 millimeter ammunition. So that's your ideal. That's what you're shooting for. With a military rifle, it's more predictable. With a military rifle, if you're starting to see 1 o'clock, that means you're getting gas port erosion, and the barrel is getting pretty well worn. So you're increasing your sonic rate. The newer rifle, you won't get that.
Any experience with Glock 17Ls?
Years and years and years and years ago. Again, it was a target gun. It was too big to carry. Um, it was increased velocity slightly. Um, it had its place, but it was more in the competition realm than it was any kind of concealed carry or duty use.
What do you think about weapons V7 and Connell? Is it good?
Where's that over?
It's the second one. It's like right there.
E7. That is ringing a bell. The manufacturer's not coming to me. I think V7 is Daniel Defense, if I recall. I have
Oh,
to get back to
he
you
said
on
in
that.
Connell gas tube.
Oh, Inconel gas tube. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
two. Well, no, he said it two things down. So
No, not at all. You have to modify your handguard for that. No, there's much better options out there, and you just saw a video on one with the rifle speed. Now, if you want to use, a hex key, you look at something like Odin. Odin is excellent because you have clicks on there, so you know what you're actually doing. Now, the set screws, those are great if it's a range toy and you're not using it in the real world. But if you're actually gonna be using it in the real world, it's nice to have something that you can adjust by hand without tools. And that's where the rifle speed really comes in. The Odin, I've got some rifles with Odins on them. Again, once you have it set up for your ammunition, it runs perfectly. Um, adjustable gas systems, when you switch out ammunition, it switches out your dynamics. So, one might be, say it's set up for Wolf, it's overgassed, then you're going to put 5.56 in it. Now it's going to be significantly higher. You know, it doesn't work as well for somebody who's not really understanding how it works.
as a bullet passes through a suppressor, how much velocity and accuracy is lost because of the lack of rifling in the suppressor?
None. Once it reaches the end of the barrel, it's getting its velocity. The suppressor has absolutely nothing to do with velocity whatsoever. It has advised to do with the velocity of the bulk carrier group, the cyclic rate, yes, but the bullet is still going to exit that barrel at the exact same velocity.
Do you have any experience with TNTE cells? They seem to do a lot of retro style clone builds, including some M4A1 Block 2 type builds.
I've seen their website. I've never actually seen any of their products. So, just from afar, like you.
With the loss of their government contract, what is Colt doing present day to stay afloat?
Well, Colt has some government contracts for foreign military sales, foreign military aid, not for U.S. government, but they still get some contracts for that. Colt will still get some foreign military contracts as well, so they'll get that. Colt puts more energy into commercial markets now because they have the space. Um, the guns they're going out now, they're different from what they were. Again, parts used to be made at Colt, they're not anymore. They're Colt merely for the most part, an assembler. For as far as the quality of those guns, I've never heard anybody complain about a Colt gun, so I have no reason to believe the quality is different. However, these are no longer the parts that are made as per mil spec. You can tell that by the parts you're getting in your hand. If you get a bulk carrier group that's not marked with a proper C, it can't go in a military gun. It's not mil spec. It's made by somebody else. Your bolt's not marked MPC. It ain't mil spec. Your upper receiver. If it doesn't have an M4 on the front of above the gas tube and have extended feed ramps, it's not U.S. government. If it's not marked C or 13629, it can't be used for the U.S. government. So you can tell it now. When Colt never, when I was there prior to the loss of the contract, there was no two product lines. All the parts came out of the same bins except for the NFA stuff and the selector levers and fire control groups and different barrelings. All the parts came out of the same bins. They were all U.S. military parts. There was no difference between a U.S. government upper receiver, a commercial, or a law enforcement. They were all the same parts. Not anymore. Not anymore. You're seeing parts that are not marked that way. So that tells you that if you're lucky, you'll get a 13629 marked up a receiver and barrel and all that stuff. So it'll be their military contract, or could be used in military contract. It's hit and miss what you get with cold mill.
What buffer weight do you recommend for a 10.5 barreled 300 blackout upper suppressed using subsonic ammunition?
Standard weight buffer, a standard 3 weight buffer, carbine buffer. You do not want an excessive amount of weight in that buffer with that light system with the subsonic. No, you want to go with a standard carbine buffer.
Why do people hate on Olympic arms?
Olympic Arms was the Chevette of guns. It really was lower end. It was really
Damn.
the parts were not really well made. I can remember seeing parts coming out of them look like they came out of a high school machine shop. Um,
Okay.
they did they did work. So
There's Chris's
sometimes
endorsement for Olympic arm.
um,
You're not getting anything from them.
we did see. I actually did see a couple Olympic Arms over in Colombia in that batch of guns I told you about. And I did see also some in Chile. Chile had bought a small quantity of those, and of course they were in parts bins because they didn't work. So it was inexpensive. They were innovative in their time with 9 millimeters and such, but you know what? They were never top tier to say the least.
You saw some of those Olympic arms in there. Did they just like take a scriber pen and just scratch it out and just write cold next to it?
Yeah, they were never a military grade gun. And when we were over in I think it was Colombia. No, it wasn't Colombia. Chile. We had seen some of the other guns that they had bought. They had some DPMS over there. They had some Bushmasters, and they had some of these Olympics. All of them had problems. We had ones that the bulk carriers wouldn't even close because the gas tubes weren't even aligned with the carrier key. We had ones that had broken bolts that they broke off like freaking teeth because they had poor heat treating. We even had a couple that on full auto, the gas tubes were not mil spec, so when the gas tubes heat up, they freaking were like a freaking pigtail. I mean, they just shortened right up and they stopped working. Because the gas tubes were warped and bent because they were the wrong materials. Um, that's the difference between a military grade gun and a commercial grade gun. I had one company I worked with years ago, very well known commercial manufacturer. Guns work very, very well. They decided they wanted to get into the military market. So they threw a selective fire lower receiver on there. Off they went. First testing that came out, gas tubes failed within 6 magazines. In fact, a couple of them failed within 3 magazines on full auto. Again, they would heat up, they would bend up, and they wouldn't work. So that was their first reality check on military grade versus commercial grade. They would never think to check on those kind of parts for a commercial gun because the gun would never get that hot. But you put it in this condition, it's totally different. So there are different grade weapons, to say the least. You pay for that.
Matt wants to know, should he get synthetic or complete gun oil from G96 for an AR platform?
The bio is the best one that they have. It actually works a little bit better than the standard synthetic. I've had a lot of experience with that, and the U.S. military has better experience with it as well.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Hopefully I think we got through all of the questions, but thank you for spending your Friday night with us. And Sunday, you will have a new video up for the crime series. Oh my gosh, it's going to be a good one. Cult, what are you, not cult, not replicas.
Yeah,
fraud.
Yeah,
We gotta come
I
up.
just sent you the thumbnail. I'm trying to remember.
Oh yeah, sometimes we fight over the thumbnail and the title.
Counterfeit. I don't remember what.
Yeah,
I don't remember
counterfeit. Yeah. Well, I mean,
I don't remember.
that'll be a good one. But thank you guys
Thank
so
you.
much for
Have a good night.
joining us.